All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover today. And again, yeah, thank you all for joining. If you've been using GitBook within the last couple days or weeks, you might have seen quite a lot of updates that we've been making to the app and the way that you create content and also publish documentation in GitBook. And we're here today to cover all of the updates that are new and even give you a little sneak preview into some of the things that we're working on off of the back of this initial release. As always, feel free to send in any questions that we have. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and we'll make sure that we can try to get to everything. And if not, make sure we answer the questions afterwards. As a quick introduction, if you haven't seen any of our previous webinars or met me before, my name's Addison. I work in developer relations at GitBook. I do most of the webinars here and excited, like I said, to teach you and bring everyone through all the updates that we've been making with the published documentation side of things. If you want to go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, I'm all over the internet at those following places. But let's take a look at the quick agenda. Like I said, we have quite a lot of things going on today. So we can start with a quick welcome, but we're gonna hop right into it after this and get into some of the GitBook UI updates that you might have seen. We're gonna go through some of the new site creations, the flow through creating a new site and getting content added to this site and see how that looks. Some of the updates to the overall publishing flow that we have going on, and also some of the updated customization options. Again, if you've been using GitBook in the past, things have moved around. We're trying to make it a lot easier for you to find the necessary things for different parts of the app and the things that you're creating. But if you're also new to GitBook, this would be a really good introductory course on where to find things in general. It's just a good view into all the updates that we've been making. We'll take a look at also adding variants. This is a pretty hot topic if you are working on things like different versions of a product or an API, or if you maybe need stuff in different languages. So I'll go ahead and show you how we do that. Show you all the new features that we've just been launching, and then we'll also, again, leave some time at the end for questions and answers. So again, make sure you just push them in the chat, and I'll take a look and get to those at the end. So let's go ahead and hop in and get started. So I'm going to pin that for now. This is GitBook when you first log in. We've been doing a lot of different things to the sidebar, to the home, to the docs sites that you might see here and here. We're going to get to all of that, but what I want to first do is actually create a new site from scratch so we can see what this might look like for a new user or a new team. So I'm going to create a new organization. Let's go ahead and call this webinar team. You can choose what you're using this for. We have a lot of teams that are using GitBook for things like internal knowledge bases or internal docs, protected doc sites if you are working on a little bit more sensitive information, but we're going to focus just on the published side of things today. I'm just going to check this off for now, and we'll create the new site. Or the new team, excuse me. Now, when you create a new organization or a new team in GitBook, you'll be prompted to create your first site. I'm just going to go ahead and create, again, just a test one. Let's do webinar test site. It'll give us an option for the type of content that we want. We can either do sample content, or we can do no content and just kind of start from blank. Or if you want to import or use things like Git sync, which we'll show in just a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and take us through what the new sample content looks like as well. And we'll publish this later. You can also publish this right away if you want, but let's go ahead and create the site. And as we're brought into the new view for GitBook, as you've created your first site, I'll take us through and give a lay of the land so we know where everything is. Previously, if you've been using GitBook, you might have seen things like spaces. This is where you're going to create all of the content, whether it's something for a doc site or whether it's something for an internal knowledge base. But we have this new section here called doc sites, and this is specific for the things that you're publishing to the web. Again, the majority of the things that you're probably making with GitBook, but you can even think of our own stuff that we do, things like docs.gitbook.com or developer docs developer www.gitbook.com. You'll find all of those different things within this doc sites section here. You can add as many doc sites as you want from this little section here. But again, because we just went through that initial flow, you'll find the one that we just made right here. And this is the main overview page for the doc sites that you have. We have a new insights section for this specific site, which you'll start to get insights after it's published. So you'll see the things like page ratings, page views, and search analytics after you go ahead and publish this and maybe enable the different parts here. Some of these are pro plan as well, so just keep that in mind. But as you explore the different insights, you can explore to see which parts are paid and not. Excuse me. From the main doc sites overview page as well, what you're able to do is add things like integrations. You're able to customize the site a little bit further, see what permissions you and your team have for this particular site, and edit any settings that are specific to this site as well. You can also do things like add a custom domain from here. You can edit the content directly, and you can also publish it to the web in a number of different ways, as we were talking about earlier. We have like protected sites, we have unlisted sites, etc. Now, one of the relationships and things that I want to show that's changed from before between the doc sites and the content is how it's laid out here. So you'll see that we have the doc sites and the webinar test site site that's published here, but we also have a link that says webinar test site down to the space that's here. So if I click this, you'll see it opens up this space. And if we want to be a little bit more clear about this, we can also rename this. We can maybe say content, and that should update this across the site as well. So we'll know a little bit more clear that the top level is the site itself that we're going to publish, and the part below is going to be the content itself that we're publishing. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is I've chosen this to be the sample content that we generate automatically for you. And this is going to help you help demonstrate a number of different things that GitBook is good for. So you'll be able to take a look at some of the different blocks and the editor experience that you get if you haven't created anything with GitBook previously. But also let us know in our community on GitHub if there's anything you feel is missing, or if you think there's any improvements that we can make, because we're constantly iterating on this template. And working on a couple different ways that you can work with templates yourself from this whole experience. So we just want to make sure we get it right through this before we continue adding more features in this kind of template realm. So feel free as you create your site to hop through and edit any of these pages, because this is going to be your version of the site as you go through this experience. But when you're ready to go ahead and publish this content, it's as easy as clicking the publish button in the upper right-hand corner. So we can go ahead and click publish. And this is going to, as you see, make it visible to everyone. But we're going to go ahead and do that. And we can take a look at the audience settings right afterwards. So we have our site. It's now live. I'll also paste this in the chat here if you want to take a look as we go ahead and edit some certain things and see how this works live. And it's live. Like I said, we can do a lot more things from here. We can customize it. We can add things like a custom domain and also change the audience from here afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and click into this as well to show you where to find this. By default, your site will be published publicly, but if you click that audience settings section, you'll be able to also add things like visitor authentication or update it to share links, which is basically a way you can share a link specifically and have more protected access. So it's shareable, but not public on the web. You can also choose the index that you want. So this is going to be the option if you want it to be indexed by search engines and basically found when you search for it on a search engine. Again, some of these features are pro, but feel free to hop in here and take a look and see what you need from here. You can always change all these things as well in the settings. If you click the settings in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find those audience settings that I've just explored previously, but also find things like the custom domain, editing a GitBook URL, which is really nice if you want to update it to something a little bit more recognizable. Right now, it's published under webinarteam.gitbook.io. You can change the slug here at the end simply by going to this section here and adding whatever you'd like. Excuse me, by the way, I'm coming over off a little cough right now. So if you see me mute myself, it's probably because I'm taking a quick drink of water. So yeah, if you want to change this to something like webinar test, we can do that very quickly. And then the update will, the URL will only be available at this URL instead. And there's a lot of customization options, which you're going to hop into soon enough. Also sharing social preview stuff. So if you want, when you share it like on something like Slack or Twitter, and it shows you that preview of the page, you'll find the image that is provided here. The content itself, which we're going to hop into this afterwards as well. And if you want to unpublish it or delete the site, you can find all those options there as well. So again, the updates we have now are the doc sites itself, but we also have the webinar content itself in this space. But one thing that I want to go ahead and show you is adding another form of content to a single site. Let's say we want to create something like a version of our product. If you have something like version 1, version 2, or if you have maybe different languages for your product as well. We can do this by adding more content to a site. So if we have our site here, you'll see that we're just looking at the normal content right here. But if we want to add more content, something like more translations, new versions, etc., we can go ahead and do that by, well, once we have the space, we'll be able to add it in here. What we're going to start by doing is starting by creating a new space. And what I'm going to do is actually take us through importing some content that we have somewhere else. I'm going to show us how we do that with Git sync. So I'm going to bring in some content that we have over here. I'm going to start by creating a new space, a new section for our content here. I'm going to go ahead and configure Git sync. If you didn't see what I just did there as well, it's in the upper right if you ever want to configure Git sync with GitHub or GitLab. You can also do it from new spaces in this header here or this footer here at the bottom. And we'll have to install this first. And it's already enabled on this space called Untitled that I have here. I'm going to authenticate my account very quickly. And I'm just going to choose the right account, repository, and sync this all up. Okay, the rest of these should all be good. I'm just choosing the account, the repository, and the branch here. But at the bottom, you'll also be able to choose the initial sync. So you can think of this as where the content is initially. And because I have all of this content here already, I'm going to choose GitHub to GitBook. If you've already written your content in GitBook and want it to end up on GitHub, you'll choose this second option here. It's important to mention that this is also just the initial sync as well. After you do the sync one time, this is going to go ahead and be a bi-directional sync. So if you make edits in GitHub or if you make them in GitBook, they're going to sync with each other afterwards. But let's go ahead and enable this so we can see this in action. And we can already start to see it's actually pulling in the content again from GitHub. It's just finishing up. And you can also close this in the meantime while it's continuing to sync. But one thing that I wanted to just mention here is this is not published at all. We can publish this as a new site if we go ahead and create a new doc site and then link up the content here. But what I want to demonstrate is how to use different variants if you have different versions of your content, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and name this headquarters. And inside of here, we can head back to our settings, head down to add content, and we'll now see this headquarters space here. If you have many different spaces, you'll see pretty much all of the available ones that you can link up. But if I go ahead and add this content here, we'll now see that this headquarters docs are added to this initial site. This might take just a second to update, but let me go ahead and refresh and we'll see if it's already there. Okay, not just yet. But it is published. This is going to show up in the in the GitBook UI here with a little toggle for us once it's completely good to go. Another thing that I wanted to mention as well, and what you'll see from these options too, is you're able to set a different version as a default version, and this is going to be the version that's going to show up by default. So when I went back here and edited the GitBook URL, we had the main version at webinar test, again, webinarteam.gitbook.io/webinar test. And whatever version that you select as the default section content here, that's what's going to appear when you first load that. You'll still have the option to switch between the two, but that's just the version that's going to be shown at the beginning. All right, we'll come back to that as well to see if that updates afterwards. Sometimes it can just take a second for the updates to flush through as it's live. If you're following along, let me know in the comments if it's already there. The other thing about this as well is all of the, again, updates to the different versions that I have are going to be specific to the content that I have inside of here. So for instance, this webinar test content, the first one that we created at the start, this isn't synced up with GitHub or GitSync at all. So this version is just living here on GitBook. If I make any updates to that, it's going to update it to the main site. But because headquarters, the second one is synced up to GitSync, any updates that I make here in GitBook or the ones that I make here to GitHub are going to flush down to just this version. And they'll both end up in the published version because they're both linked up to this main site. And we can now see that too with the content here. If I do want to make any updates to the test content that we have here or headquarters, either one, we can do so by adding a new change request, something that's probably pretty familiar to you if you've been using GitBook before. We can add a little message at the top, say first change, adding a new page. We can say something like change log and go ahead and type whatever we want there afterwards. But we can, after we merge this in, this is going to also then again be live in the main version after it's merged in. So that latest version, or that latest page that I add will be added in just a sec. But the thing that I was talking about before, adding the two different variants or the two different pieces of content, we can now see in the header. So we can take a look at the webinar test content, or we can see headquarters up here and switch between the two just as easily like this. So again, this is really useful if you are working on different things like translations or you're working on different versions. You can be sure that your users will just head to one section here. So, you know, webinar team.gitbook.io, webinar test. But if they want to change to different, you know, translations or different languages, different versions, they can do so just by clicking this in the upper header here. And you'll be able to manage everything from a very easy UI right here. We've also moved a few things around with the customization because previously a lot of the customization options were specific to things like the the space or the content that you're creating here. But because the customization is really a lot more tightly coupled with the published side of things, we've moved most of these options over to the site itself, and you'll find this. You'll find all the customization options from the doc site's main overview page for whatever site you're working on. So you can head up to the upper right-hand corner to customize, and you'll see the different options that you can edit for this site. So a lot of very similar things that we've had before. So title on icon, custom logos, which is going to appear where it says webinar test site up here. Different themes for light and dark mode. I'll show you all this in a working order as well, because some of these things are part of the pro plan as well. Light, dark mode, primary colors, the mode toggle as well, if you want your users to be able to toggle between light and dark, which shows up at the bottom in the footer. Font family, icons, which is something we've just added. I'm going to show us that in just a bit. Corner style for cards and different blocks that we have here, and the background as well. Some of the layout options too for the header. So if you want to add like a navigation next to the search bar up here, pagination, which is going to bring you to the next page or the previous page when you're at the bottom of a page, or adding a footer that will give more links similar to the header navigation as well. And configuring it to the localized user interface. We have a couple different languages here, and that's going to localize things like the Powered by GitBook logo here, or the search, or any of the main GitBook UI. If you are using GitHub or GitLab Sync, you'll also find the option to add a edit button from all the different pages, which will allow your users to help contribute to your docs as they're working on them. So if you are working on like an open source project, this is going to be super useful for that. And adding things like a privacy policy URL as well. But the main thing that I wanted to mention too, that's moved or a little bit changed if you are working on different versions, you'll notice here at the top that this says site-wide settings. And that means all of the different parts that we're working on and changing for the customization are going to affect both the webinar test content, but also the second version of content that we have here, which is called headquarters. So again, if we just want to, excuse me, change the webinar test content colors or something like this, let's go ahead and just change this to purple. We can go ahead and see that. But if we want the headquarters color to be something different, we can also override that and change it on this version. So this headquarters version is going to be this red that we have set. And this is going to be the purple that we set. I also actually forgot to click save in the bottom right, which is why it didn't save between the two. But you can have different configurations for your different versions. If you have maybe again like different styles for different products, but you want them all linked in one section, or if you have different branding for different products or versions, etc. Let me take a sec and see if we have any questions in the chat. Feel free to add any questions, and we'll get through them as we go. Okay, well, I went pretty far back. This is also actually a pretty good question from Jenna about basically just, again, why we've done some of these updates. And I think this is also probably some pretty good, just good context for, again, kind of the direction that we're going and why we've started to do this in the first place. We've realized that the majority of our users, including many of you, are using GitBook for doc sites, but we also have a lot of users who are creating things that aren't necessarily public or used for as doc sites. So the other use cases that you might have seen, things like internal docs or protected docs. But because the majority were using us for creating doc sites, we wanted to revamp the experience and make it a lot easier for people to find these different things that they might be using to create beautiful interactive docs and put it into one place to make it a lot easier for you to manage your site as a whole. Kind of separating the two concepts out between the content itself. Again, if you are working on something that is a little bit more protected or internal, you can still have all the features that you want to do just within the content section. But when you want to publish it and share it out, you also have all of the features inside of the docs section, if that's the part that you want to be using. And again, the bigger reason that we kind of separated these out is because we are going to start and have started to build out a lot of the features that are going to be more specific to each section, which at the end of this, I'll show you some and kind of where we're going with some of these features. But helping us separate the docs from the content makes it a little bit easier conceptually to get started and create docs, but also help you find the things that you need if you're only working on one or the other. Yep, Janice also kind of hit it right there on the head. It's basically the same as publishing a space, but we're just making these pieces a little bit more visible and easy to use. Okay. A couple of these questions I will get to. I'll get to at the end. All right. Let's take a look at some of the other features that we have that are going to be more specific towards towards the content side of things. So again, we've gone through kind of the doc sites updates, so where you can find your docs sites that you're working on, the content and how it's linked. Again, this is just a link down to the content that you have below, how you can add different variants to a docs site and switch between them and see the different either insights or customization options between them, publishing them in different ways, checking out the permissions that you might have, the overall settings for the site. But again, those are a lot of site-specific things, and I want to show you some of the things that we've been adding for the content side of things. And one of the main things that I also want to mention and start off about the content side of things is that if you've been using GitBook for a little bit, you might have heard about some of our features called GitBook AI. And GitBook AI is a suite of different features related to that have AI functionality that might help you search your content, write your content, or just kind of use your content in general. A lot of these features have been in beta for the last year or so, but recently we've brought all of those out of beta, and I want to kind of demo and show you how they might be pretty useful for you as a content creator to use them in your own day-to-day. So the first thing that I want to do is start by adding a new variant and show how this might be useful for translations. I'm going to switch to a different organization for us to do this, though. And let's head to this here. So one of the main uses of GitBook AI, if you haven't seen it, is going to be our search. If you head to even our own docs, like docs.gitbook.com, you'll find it in the upper right-hand corner. You can search through all of your content by default just by hitting the search section and searching for what you're looking for. So if I want to look for something like Markdown, we'll see a list of all the matches that it found for Markdown, whether it's like a header or inside of a paragraph somewhere, and you can click into do this. But I can also ask it a list of questions as well. I can maybe ask something like, what kind of formats can I write in GitBook? And we can ask it this question, and it should analyze all of the different content and show us a list like this. It's also going to show you a list of the sources, so like formatting of content, Markdown, and also ask any follow-up questions that you might want to No. So something like, how do I create a code block in GitBook? And yeah, you'll see a little guide on how to do it there. This is available if you for our pro plans, but it's what I wanted to mention is that it's outside of beta now, so it's fully functional and fully supported in the app. You can enable it from the site settings that we were exploring before. But not only is it going to be available inside of the published side of things, inside of the search, we also have GitBook AI right from the editing experience as well. So if we press this space, you'll see a list of different ways that AI could be really helpful for you to continue writing or translating different things as well. So I can either write from scratch, or if I want to click this or highlight this, excuse me, and do something like the AI, click the AI button and maybe translate this to Spanish. This is going to analyze what we have here, and we can then replace it right in like that. Excuse me. So this is going to be pretty useful if you are working on different like translations or want to add translations for specific guides or different things that you're working on. And then again, publish this as a new space underneath the variants that we were looking at before. So you can have it the English or your main language at the top, and then different versions that might be translated all from here as well. There's a lot of different other use cases as well that you might have seen. So we have like things like continue writing, explain, writing paragraphs about whatever. You can have it also summarize things, explain things, and then again, like the translations that we just saw as well. Some of the other things that we have too that I want to show. Let's check out our one second here. I actually want to take a look at our own developer docs and show some of the AI features that we have and some of the new features as well. So we can take a look at the published side of things for our developer docs. If you want to know what I'm referring to, we have developer.gitbook.com. This is for our developer platform for working on our API, working with our API integrations, and also things like visitor authentication. So some of the more protected side of things for our docs. But some of the cool things that we have AI also enabled for are some of the things that you would have seen when we created the new site at first as well. Things like our page ratings, search analytics as well. So we can see the good user sentiments and the poor user sentiments. So if your users are rating your pages highly, you can go ahead and see which pages you might need to update or add more information to, change around, or also see which ones are performing really well with your users. You also get an overview of page views. You can load more, see all the different views that we have here, and search analytics. So this is going to be a list of things that people are searching from inside of the docs up here. We are definitely planning on updating a lot of this and making this a lot more useful, adding more information, more insights and analytics for the different things people are searching for, or just in general, how people are interacting with your sites. So if you have any feedback for us or have any ideas on how we can improve that for you or your organization, how you're using it, feel free to hop in our community and let us know how we can go ahead and make it work best for you. But outside of this, oops, sorry, let me go back to the docs. The other features that I want to also then highlight and give a quick demo on are some of the things that we've been releasing alongside the public docs release. Some things that are going to help you as you're creating content make more beautiful docs, but also write more concise docs. And the first one that I want to highlight is the broken links that we've also shipped. So this one you may or may not have seen, but this is a little icon in the upper right of any space that you're working on that will give you an insight into any of the issues or broken links that you have within a space. Let me show you how it works. So what we have going on right here is the broken links feature, and it's going to show us a list of different links within our documentation that are broken. We can click into it and see which one specifically is not working. And you'll see down here, the GitBook manifest reference has a broken link in our actual documentation. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. Let me open up a new change request. And we should, what I'm doing here is also filtering it. You'll also see in this specific change request. So if this is going to be useful if you are making a big change request and you maybe delete a page, you'll see that if this change request is merged, you'll see which links are going to be broken, but you can also change the scope to be this space and you'll see which ones are broken already. And if you head to the reference and we head down here, and we hover this, it should say this broken link right here. Excuse me. And this link should definitely point to the configurations inside of our integration. So what I'm going to do is remove that. And we'll go to configurations inside of here. And that should solve that one once it's merged. And the other one is the API. And if we take a look down here, the API changelog, this is also broken. But I'm going to, let me make this link. Actually, one of these. We're going to point this to the releases that we have going here for the API. But one thing that I want to point out with the broken links is that it's only going to be able to detect broken links that you have within your space. So if your link is external and it's not working anymore, GitBook unfortunately isn't able to detect that and see if it's broken. But with any of the links that you have inside of a space, you'll be able to catch those before or after they're broken and fix them very easily. Let me just leave a quick message and merge that in. So then those will be live in our docs then. Another big feature that we also have shipped quite recently is some that you can already see here on the side. But we've launched a way for you to add icons to your pages as well. This has been a long requested feature, but it's pretty simple to use. If you want to add a new icon to any page, you can do so by, well, when you're in edit mode or inside of a change request, starting a new one. And you'll be able to edit the icon right from the top up here. Previously, this was just emojis, which you can still go ahead and do. But if you want to search through a list of thousands of different icons, you can do so right from here. We can, I think there's about, well, there's thousands and thousands, but there, there should be different variants for the different icons that you have as well. So, I mean, for whatever you're searching for, you should definitely be able to find one that you're looking for. They're also going to, after they're published, inherit the color of your primary color when you have them set up and they're active. So again, the welcome page is set up here, and the primary color is this this teal blue. And because we have it selected here, when we're selected, this icon is also going to change that. So it's also, again, like I said, going to inherit whatever color you have set here. But we also have a list of different variations for the icons that you can also change from your customization settings. So inside of the customization settings, if you scroll down to the styling section under icons, You'll also be able to change if you want it to be solid, duotone, regular light, or thin. So the different variants for the different icons that we have there. And those are going to appear inside of the left-hand side when they're live. The last feature that we've also shipped alongside this DocSites release, which is pretty exciting, is the hidden pages section, which is also a pretty highly requested feature if you have been using GitBook for a little bit. By default, whenever you create a new page in GitBook, it's going to be visible inside of the table of contents over here on the left. But there might be some cases where you want to add a new page, for example. Let's type some content here. But we don't want this page to be visible inside of the table of contents. From here, if you ever want to hide any pages, you can click the 3 dots on the left-hand side next to the page, and you can click Hide Page. Now, a few things about this is going to hide it from the table of contents on the left, but it's not going to remove it from the page entirely. So after this is published, you'll still be able to access this by direct link, but this page will also be still indexed and able to be used within search. So it's just a good way to add extra things like guides that you might not want to be linked from, or extra information that you don't want to be visible from the sidebar here. And I think that is most of the questions. Thank you all again for joining and asking amazing questions in the chat. Hopefully I was able to answer and give some context into, again, what we've been doing over the last couple weeks in migrating over to this new DocSites platform. Hopefully this gave a good overview of, again, some of the decisions behind that and where to find some of the things that you might be using with published documentation. We'll have a recording of this and we'll send this out afterwards so you can rewatch if you might have missed something. But otherwise, feel free to visit us in our community. This page that I have linked here, github.com/gitbookio/community. And we will we'll see you in there, and we'll make sure that we can work with you to see what we can improve GitBook on. But thank you again for joining, and we'll see you at the next one, which you can also find again at gitbook.com/events. Stay tuned for the next one, which we have on September 3rd for internal docs. We'll see you there.